welcome to this week's installment of Inclusion Revolution here on Eastlink. We're so glad you're able to join us. We're really pleased this week to have a managing lawyer join us from Nova Scotia Legal Aid, someone who's really been involved in the community for actually many years, and is here to talk to us about this new Nova Scotia Mental Health Court. So we want to welcome Malcolm Jeffcock. Welcome. We haven't seen each other in a while, actually, Malcolm, but we have seen each other a few years back.
That's true.
And what I've always been impressed with is your community commitment to your community, and of course working in Nova Scotia Legal Aid, you certainly see all kinds of community needs. But we're here really to talk today about this mental health court. Now I have to be honest with you, those of us in the community, agencies, persons with mental health, their family and caregivers, all have a lot of questions and don't have a lot of answers, and we don't expect you to have them all today because we know this is a process in the making. But we would love to hear from you a little bit about why a mental health court, if we can start there, and what a mental health court is or does.
Well, mental health courts are one of many types of specialty or problem-solving courts. The first, really, in North America were were drug courts that started in both Chicago and in Dade County, Florida, in the early '80s. Primarily, a problem-solving court tries not to deal just with the offense, but the underlying problem that led to the offending behavior. So in the 1990s, the latter half of the 1990s, mental health courts started to pop up in the United States. The first ones, again, were in Florida, California, and Alaska, and Washington State were the first four. And they, again, attempted to address the problems that underlay the behavior that was deemed to be criminal conduct. Around the year 2000 in the United States, there was a federal initiative, financial initiative, that encouraged the development of more mental health courts. And
based on success, Malcolm? I mean, obviously they were seeing some success?
Yes, and perceived success. They were happy with the results. Okay. And what happened basically is now in North America, the U.S. and Canada, there's about 180 mental health courts. Wow. The closest ones are St. John, New Brunswick, and St. John's, Newfoundland in Canada, but there's a number in Ontario, London, Kitchener, Toronto. So they're not a rarity anymore.
Just new to us.
Just new to us. We're still very early on in the process here in Nova Scotia. The Department of Justice has had a steering committee that's been active for a number of months, trying to pull together the resources and expertise to develop a mental health court here. There have been struck more recently a couple of working groups. I'm on those working groups to give recommendations to the steering committee. People in the community probably heard last fall it was originally anticipated it would open in September. It didn't. Now it is scheduled for April 1st, but a more realistic goal might be May 1st or something thereabouts. So really very, very soon in terms of our timeline at this stage that we should see it. And what's it going to look like? I mean, we are close. Yeah. So what does a mental health court look like? First of all, is it held at the Department of Justice in a courtroom like any other place? Yeah. I mean, give us a sense of what we're going to see it, how it's going to look. It is a court, same as any other court. Binding, same binding findings, or am I getting confusing? Well, it's a situation where any court has to have its jurisdiction or power come from something. Okay. And all courts, all provincial courts, have their powers from the Criminal Code of Canada. The judge who will be presiding, I don't think it's been publicly announced, so I'm certainly not going to announce it. Okay. But we don't get a scoop here on Inclusion Revolution? The judge who would be presiding is a judge of the provincial court, a judge who has presided for a number of years in the provincial court dealing with criminal matters, and has certainly dealt over the years with people who have had mental illnesses before him. Well, I gave you a tip there. So I know it's anticipated to be a male judge, but in any event, I've already got a theory about it, but that's besides the point. Well, that's good. It's suggested that it's going to be held in Dartmouth. The project is going to serve the entire metropolitan area. The frequency that the court will sit, difficult to say. The reason is because you don't know how many people are based on caseload and so on, of course. It's a situation where the information I've received from the Halifax Regional Police would suggest that they had about 1,000 calls last year that had an element to it that could be referred to as a mental health concern or element. So of those, I don't know how many people would end up in this particular court. The St. John Court is a very small court, deals with about 17 people a year, so it's probably not going to be on that sort of scope. I would anticipate it to be much larger. When you look at some of the American courts with a similar population base, or the court in London, which is very similar to our area, you get quite a few more people than that. So
we also have to, you and I may know this and our listeners and our viewers may not, but the reality is that Nova Scotia does have the highest incidence of persons per capita who live with disabilities and self-identify. We do identify that there is a large portion of our population that does live with mental health in terms of the percentages and per capita compared to other provinces even. And that can be attributed to a number of things, but the reality is that I'm with you. I think this mental health court is going to see certainly a lot more activity than 18 cases, again, based on the criteria being broad enough to include people that certainly we in the community perceive as being in a mental health court. But let me ask you for an example, because anytime I put you on the spot, I know you're going to stop me, so it's not a problem for you. But we see something like this incident that's very dramatic, like the bus, where the man decapitated another man. And, then we see the mother coming out and saying, of course, she's very frustrated that perhaps through a mental health type intervention or even a plea that this man would then get healthy and then be free, and her belief is that you take a life, you basically give a life being your own. Would that level of case be managed in a mental health court, or would it be almost too loaded? Or am I expecting too much out of you with an answer?
No, I think I can answer that.
Oh, wow, good. Okay, that was an iffy one. Go.
No, not really. The first issue you have to understand is under the criminal code, there are certain cases that are in the absolute jurisdiction of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Such as murder.
We're all learning today together. Okay.
So the particular case you refer to with the incident on the bus, the decapitation, that being a charge of murder, it couldn't be dealt with in the provincial court, and the mental health court is a provincial court. So that would not be a case that would see its resolution in a mental health court. Another issue about that case is that the defense that's being put forward is that the person, A, suffered from a mental disability, but that because of that disability, they fail to appreciate the nature and quality of their actions, or that the actions were wrong. The criminal code has a very specific defense, not criminally responsible due to mental disorder, and that's what the defense in that case is being put forward. That will not change. A person who is not criminally responsible due to mental disorder will not be dealt with through the mental health court per se. They would go through the normal process, and if that's the verdict, they would end up under the jurisdiction of the Criminal Code Review Board. Okay. So that's not the type of case. The type of case that typically ends up in a mental health court is a case where the behavior itself is related to a mental health concern, but the mental health concern is not to the degree that the person doesn't appreciate the nature and quality of the act, or that the act is wrong, so to cause them to be exempt. So it's a situation where people, due to their health concern, may have interactions with their neighbor in the community, not necessarily next door neighbor, but just other people in the community, that causes those people to make a complaint to the police, and when the police intervene, they find that technically the conduct constitutes an offense under the criminal code. If the person is referred to the mental health court, there will be a team at the court that would be comprised of some clinicians who would make first an initial determination if they are people that could be helped through the referral to the court, and then there'll be, unfortunately, lawyers will get involved, and the crowd. Well, I won't say unfortunately. You said that. I want to say that. That's just, but then there'll be an issue of whether or not the Crown will agree to deal with the case in the mental health court, and then the person will have to agree to it. Nobody will be forced to go to mental health court. It's not going to be a situation that a person can be compelled to do it. A person can agree to participate in the mental health court program, and once a treatment plan, if you will, is worked out, and they are comfortable with that and agree to it, at any point they can withdraw. And if they should withdraw, their case would be referred back to the referring provincial court.
Right. So what I'm hearing from you is it's very much in the control of the individual, that mental health consumer, as to how much he wishes to utilize that particular process. And I think that's really empowering. And is that fair to say?
It's fair to say it's sort of an off and on switch.
Okay, so before you tell me the off and on, I'm going to break because I want to take a moment here for Eastlink to do its thing. I want to think about what you've just said and what you're about to say. And we look forward to coming back with Malcolm Jeffcock to talk more about the reality of Nova Scotia's upcoming mental health court. So stay with us. Thank you.